Hello, welcome back. Let's see if we can finish this travesty in one more sitting. So we can hide in the supply locker, which would have to be a pretty big supply locker, because Miss Yui has like D bust size, so I just don't see her fitting in there. And then the teacher's podium just has no cover whatsoever. Let's just jump into the supply locker. I hurriedly squeezed myself into the metal locker where the classroom's cleaning supplies were kept. It was still pitch black in the room, so I really couldn't spare the time it would take to remove its contents. Instead, I just contorted myself to fit. Not to mention, it would be very suspicious to just be there for there to be a whole bunch of, contents just laying all over the floor. The locker was thick with the smells of mold and varnish. So I waited. I waited for the footsteps to pass by and fade into the distance, signaling that it was safe to emerge. Still, it felt a lot safer in the locker than it did out in the room. But the footsteps weren't receding. They were just getting louder, closer, faster, harder. What kind of footsteps are those? Oh. Wait a minute, I think I may have missed something. No, I did not. Never mind. And they came to a sudden halt. They were close, just outside the locker. I peered through the ventilation holes amidst the utter darkness of the classroom. There wasn't a soul to be seen. Couldn't you have just, stuck your nose right there and started breathing? Because you were complaining about that. I'm not sure why I believed that. Maybe because I needed to. Maybe because it was so dark, or because I felt so much calmer in such a tight place. There's nothing where nothing could possibly sneak up behind me. I didn't know why, and I didn't care. I just knew that, as far as I was concerned, I was safe in here. So I stood, motionless and cramped, and I waited. I didn't have to wait long. Suddenly apprehensive, I gently nudged the supply closet door just to make sure it would still open for me when I wanted it to. I let out a sudden yelp at this unknown voice and tried with all my might to push open the door, blocking my escape. There was a brief moment of silence following the eerie voice's unsettling proclamation. And then... crash, crunch, the metal walls around me, on all four sides, began warping inwards as if the supply locker had somehow been fed into a trash compactor. There was no force I could imagine that should have been able to do this, but it was happening. This already confined space was steadily closing in on me. The collapse of the locker all around me continued slowly and steadily. I could feel all manner of things pushing and cutting into my body. My vision went bright red. One of the blood vessels in my eyes probably burst from the pressure. I wasn't going to last much longer. The ventilation holes in the locker door were now pressed right up against my face, and through them. I could just barely make out the figure of a person. Oh, I thought it meant it was going through her face. Whoops, misread that. It was the old woman from this morning. She was standing just outside the slats, staring right into my eyes. Even though that was clearly Yoshia's voice, not old lady. It was the last sight I would ever see as the locker, finally, inevitably, smashed into my skull. Well, let's reload that. Well, let's go behind the teacher's podium, which seems like the stupider choice. I hurriedly hid myself beneath the teacher's podium. I grabbed my knees, curled up, and made myself as small as I could. The footsteps continued to draw nearer and nearer. Clump, 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 clump. Little by little, the sound grew louder. Every hair on my badump body was standing on end. I held my breath, clasped my hands together, and silently prayed. They were close now, very, very close. Why was this happening? Because you came after 7. I couldn't make any sense of it. I just wanted it to be over. I prayed to God that it would end. Was this what the old woman was trying to warn me about? Was this all happening because I ignored her? Because I didn't take the paper doll from her? Well, you should have taken it, but I don't know if this is happening because of that. But you know, I'm just wondering, have people died from this before? Some, like, if they die, do they get the whole existence removed thing? Like, I mean, that would make some sense, I suppose. Was it because I'd heard the ghost story of Yoshie and allowed it to get to me? Or did the strange events of the day have nothing to do with what was happening to me now? I was still holding my breath. I didn't dare let even the tiniest of sounds escape and give away my position. Different sounding footsteps. The consistent rhythm of the footsteps suddenly ended halfway into one of its cycles. And it had ended right in front of this very classroom. I had goosebumps up and down my arms and legs. I stopped praying and collapsed my hands over my mouth. I knew I'd scream if I didn't. Wait. Okay, I thought my mic was too close to my mouth. Could this be Yoshie? Was the school legend real? All I could do was close my eyes, keep my mouth shut, and hope that whoever or whatever this was would just go away. But the footstep sounds didn't start again. If this was indeed Yoshie, then she stopped in front of the classroom and was just standing there. I had no concept of time anymore. I stayed in my hiding spot for what was probably only a few minutes, but it felt like at least an hour. I decided to carefully peek out from under the podium. I gingerly edged my head out just far enough to get a glimpse of the room when suddenly... The footsteps rang out once more. It sounded like they were headed right for me, and they might have been inside the room. I honestly couldn't tell. I scrambled back into my hiding spot and covered my mouth with both hands. Again. This was too much for me. My breathing was coarse and erratic, and my face was a mess of tears and snot. I was inconsolable. The footsteps just wouldn't stop. What on earth were they doing? It almost seemed like they were running around in circles just to scare me. I mouthed these words over and over again and moved my hands to my ears in a vain attempt to block out this torturous sound. And as if in response, the sound changed. It was a loud, dull thud, followed by silence. No more footsteps. Oh, whoops. I'd heard that sound hundreds of times before. It was the classroom door sliding open. I peeked out, but the door was still tightly shut. How could that be? If the sound I heard wasn't the door, then what was it? The back door? What little safety I'd felt was pretty much gone, but to be fair, I wasn't absolutely certain the spirit had seen or heard me either. The prospect of stepping out into the open wasn't a desirable one, but I had to decide if it was better to stay where I was or to make a break for it. Well, save time. Alright, saved, and I'll be honest, I don't actually remember what the right answer for this one is, and I don't remember what the wrong end is either. Just stay hidden. But it only took a moment for that decision to come back and bite me. Oh, well, I guess that was not the right choice. My body was suddenly weighed down. In an instant, without knowing what was happening, my fetally positioned body form was essentially locked in place. It was like a boulder had fallen on top of me and was resting on my arched back. I twisted and shuffled myself around, trying to shake it off, but the more I struggled, the heavier it became. And what's more, it felt like it was slowly inching its way up towards my head, as if it were planning on dropping down in front of my face. Was this a person? It was a female voice, reverberating ominously as it bubbled up from the depths of hell. I squirmed violently, desperate to throw her off of me. That doesn't seem like tag. No, I don't remember any of my games of tag going like that. Actually, I don't think I even ever had games of... No. My vision went red, or at least it felt that way. Whoever was on my back had dug her razor-sharp fingernails right into my eyes. I collapsed on the spot. The pain was instantaneous and unbearable. I could no longer hold my position. I could no longer focus on anything but this agony. Oh, she sounded really cute when she said that. The pain shot through my head in waves. It was indescribable, unthinkable. I couldn't take it any longer. My consciousness faded, and I was gone. I would never know exactly what had happened to me, but maybe I was better off that way. Well, I didn't mean to get that one, but there you go. Let's wait for this to go, because, you know, why not? I mean, it's just gonna say wrong end 3. I mean, it couldn't say anything else. Or could it? Okay, yeah, 3, so let me reload that again. Alright, let's try this again with Make a Break for It. But first, like, I was thinking earlier today, like, I was thinking about Chapter 3 for some reason, and I was just like, why is the school open? Like, she just walked in like it was nothing. Do they just leave all Japanese schools open? That doesn't seem... whatever. Staying in one place for too long seemed like it would be inviting trouble, so I took a deep breath and reluctantly crawled out as quietly as I could. But almost immediately, I felt something. Something, I assume that says. Something long and thin. Yep. Something long and thin had struck me in the back of the head. Or perhaps struck isn't the right word. There was a little force. There was a little force behind it, but it wasn't a hard slam. More like someone trying to get my attention. I knew I wouldn't like what I was going to see, but I had to face whatever this was, so I turned around. And there, looming over me, was... A figure was peering down at me from above the podium, with one emaciated wishbone-like finger extended towards my face. I recognized this person instantly, no doubt about it. This was the strange old woman who supposedly passed away early, but that sounds nothing like it. This sounds just like Yoshia, not the old lady. You see what I mean when this seems like a fanfic? I was scared out of my mind. I tumbled the rest of the way out from under the podium and shot to my feet. I was scared. Oh, well, I was completely wrong. A ghost. There really was a ghost in this school. My breathing was ragged and my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Plowing through all the desks in my way, I was ran as fast as I could towards the classroom door. But that was as far as I could go. There in the open doorway was the same old woman emitting a bluish-white glow. This was the source of the light I'd seen through the window earlier. But how in the world did she get to the door before I did? I felt like I was starting to hyperventilate and tried as best as I could to calm my breathing as my eyes darted around the room. I need to get out of here now, to get as far away from this place as I possibly could. Oh, whoa, yeah. There is a back door. Wow. Okay, actually I can see that supply locker now, and yeah, I guess that is pretty big. Just jump out the... Oh, wait. No, what floor? Never mind. I think she said she was on the, like, the 3rd floor. I bit my lip and continued scanning the room. I didn't have time to think carefully about it. I just had to grab something and hope for the best. There were 2 choices, and I had to pick one on impulse before it was too late. Save. Alrighty, let us... Just, like, the broom, don't know what you do with that. Bag of salt, good against ghosts, and stuff like that, I think. I heard that salt was used in purification rituals, so it seemed like a natural choice. I placed the salt in my pocket as a sort of protective charm. When I looked over, the spirit of the old woman was holding out her hand from the other side of the doorframe. Sure, she really was trying to catch me. I wasn't just being paranoid, she was trying to kill me and turn me into a ghost like her. I was convinced this had to be Yoshie, the teacher from that urban legend. Bracing myself, I darted toward the door at the back end of the classroom. There wasn't a moment to lose. If I didn't act fast, I probably wouldn't be able to act at all. I threw the door open and just began running at top speed, hoping to escape behind the spirit's back. Unsurprisingly, trying to outrun a ghost proved to be a fruitless endeavor. The spirit saw me and moved at breakneck speed to intercept. Yeah, you see, that sounds like the old lady. I thrust my hand into my pocket and withdrew the bag of salt and threw the entire thing directly at the old woman's face. Frag out. I ran down the hall as fast as my legs would carry me, briefly glancing over my shoulder after a moment to confirm that the spirit was still writhing. Yeah, but like the spirit, you said it moved at breakneck speed, so the second she stops writhing in pain, she's gonna be like right in front of you again. I just kept on running down that dark hallway with nothing but adrenaline and mortal fear to keep me going. I reached the stairwell at the end of the hall and made a mad dash toward ground level. I was determined to get out of this building alive. Finally, still moving at top speed, I reached the window door leading outside. Luckily, the malevolent spirit hadn't caught up to me yet. It actually seemed like I might be able to escape, and I might actually survive this. I grabbed the handle and tried pulling it. Oh, did the custodian finally remember to, lock the front door? Good job. Wait a minute, you said there was a custodian that was out late at night. Well, why doesn't he see all this stuff ever? I don't remember this either, but save. Alrighty. I don't remember what this is. Break the glass. In case you're wondering why, like, after I save, it goes to, like, a fade-in. It does that because, like, when you're paused, like this, the timer still goes. So that after I finish saving, like, it goes to a game over. So I have to, like, load it back up again, and then that's why it, like, does the fade-in. Putting my thoughts in order, I came to the sudden realization that I was right near the umbrella racks. Unless the spirit had taken it or something, my umbrella should still have been right where I'd left it. I practically tackled the rack, grabbing my umbrella in one swift motion. Not from the handle, mind you, but from the top. Then taking aim at the glass part of the door, I swung as hard as I could, smacking it dead center with a sturdy plastic handle. Wow, that sounded like a really strong blow you made. The glass wasn't going to break so easily, of course, but it did crack, giving me the impetus I needed to go in for a second hit. I don't know what that meant. Again and again I struck the glass. I had the umbrella gripped so tightly that the metal skeleton of the canopy was leaving indentations in my skin. I was sure there had to be a better way to do this. Boy. But I didn't have the luxury of time to figure out what it might have been. Sounds like she's hitting something with an ice pick. I began smacking the glass even harder, even faster. My hands were killing me, but this was my only hope of survival, finally after far too much effort. The glass shattered onto the floor, making one hell of a sound. Tepid air whished in from outside. It was still pouring rain, but I was free now. It was free to escape this hellhole. The pane I'd broken was on the lower half of the Oh, okay, I misread that. And I didn't care if I cut I didn't misread it, I just didn't understand it. Yeah. And I didn't care if I cut myself. I got down on my hands and knees and I crawled like mad. Yeah, why would you do that? I felt triumphant. For a brief moment the fear was gone and I was basking my victory over this malevolent entity. Thank you. But it didn't last long. Before I was even halfway through the door, I felt something coiling itself around my arm. With a start, I looked back. You see that voice? That is the voice we were hearing earlier, and Yui's like, oh, that's the old lady from earlier. Like, oh, no, you idiot, that is not the old lady from earlier. A tall, shadowy figure had appeared behind me in the entranceway, and she had me in her grasp. There wasn't much more to her than an indistinct, flickering silhouette, but I could clearly see she had a broken neck. Was this a different apparition? Her scraggly, root-like fingers were squeezing my arm with tremendous force, pushing aside muscle and tissue and pressing right to the bone. Oh, that sounds great. I think you would be in way too much pain to ask a question if that was happening. I was shaking hysterically and tears were streaming down my face. I was absolutely convinced that I was going to die here. Hey, Sachan. I could offer no resistance. She was too strong. All I could do was plead with her. Whoops. I felt like my arm would snap in two at any moment. She wasn't just grabbing, but twisting as well. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. I couldn't think of anything else. My mind was absorbed by the unconscionable agony. But why are you here? I thought my arm was about to snap off, and then all of a sudden I was whisked away. Whisked away by Tsukasa. There's no time to explain. Well, I would certainly like an explanation for why you're here in the middle of the night. Tsukasa was still holding on to me tightly after saving me from the brink of death. He led me back into the school at incredible speed. He practically spit these words as he continued running. That is a very good-looking question. I tried to match his gait, and once we were a bit more in sync, I looked up at his face. After we'd reached the end of the hall, he suddenly veered into the last classroom before the stairwell, pulling me in with him. Don't worry, I cornered us. I moved away from Tsukasa and almost immediately spilled onto the ground like a house of cards.
おい、大丈夫じゃないじゃん。
そうだけど、でもすぐに。あ、
無理すんなよ。
Tsukasa grabbed my arm to help me up. Unfortunately, it was the arm Yoshi had been twisting.
悪い。やっぱり腕怪我してるのか。
よくわかんない。でもすっごく痛いよ。焼けるみたい。
You don't seem to be acting like you're in much pain. I draped my other hand over the sore spot, where I assumed there was probably one hell of a bruise. I started rubbing gently, but it didn't help at all.
そうか。じゃあ保健室ですぐに手当てした方がいいな。
でも、そしたらまた。
あいつが来るって。
Just thinking about going back out there and facing Yoshi made me shudder. I couldn't believe he was even entertaining the idea. What are you gonna do, just camp out in their classroom?
もし仮にあいつが来ても、俺が絶対お前を守ってやるから。
スカサ君。
Tsukasa's gentle reassurance actually made me forget the pain in my arm for a moment. I had to stop myself from blushing, or try to at any rate.
怪我は一刻も早く手当てした方がいいって。まあどうせ先生なんかいないだろうけど、応急手当てくらいなら俺にだってできる。よし、行くぞ。
Tsukasa offered me his hand, and I, graciously, that I would not have ever thought of that one. And I graciously took it, squeezing it as tightly as he led me back out of the hallway. Despite the fact that nothing had really changed, I was still in just as much danger as I had been. The paralyzing fear I'd been feeling was gone. Wait a minute. Oh, alright, never mind. Misreading it again to myself. If it were just me, I would have never been able to do this. I would have frozen up, but with Tsukasa leading the way, I felt like I could do anything.
シシド、少し走るけど大丈夫か
？With my blessing, Tsukasa upped his pace significantly. I prayed silently for smooth sailing as I followed Tsukasa's lead. I gently squeezed his hand again, as if to reassure myself that he was still with me. He still didn't tell us... Well, whatever. I was starting to think maybe Yoshi was gone. Maybe we'd thwarted her, but of course, just as I was thinking that, she made her presence known again. An unearthly voice reverberated through the dark corridor. I immediately drew myself into Tsukasa's back. Over Tsukasa's shoulders, I saw the same shadow-like spirit from before. See, look at her pose. It's kind of like how Miss Yui was when Satoshi went to see her. He must have been waiting here to ambush us. The ghost was moaning and wavering before us. We'd never be able to get past it. Okay, sounds good to me. Nope, sounds good to me.
俺には秘密兵器があるのさ。俺のばあさんからもらった形見のお守り。さっきあいつにこれを向けたら少し割り上がった。
形見の お守り
Was it a proton pack?
でも司くんやっぱり危険
Not if he has a proton pack.
まあなんとかなるだろう。
そんな
待ちなさい。
We really didn't have time to be arguing. It was closing in fast. And as it did, I noticed the spirit's figure had become more defined. She was a tall young woman with her head turned sideways at a 90-degree angle. The tale of Yoshie suggests he fell down a flight of stairs, so a broken neck would certainly fit. He gave my back a shove to get me started, and with no time to eject, I unconsciously obliged. Tsukasa ran too, darting ahead of me for a few short moments.
おいバケモノこっちだ。
待ちなさい。
Tsukasa ran as close as he possibly could to get Yoshi's attention, and then turned tail and began sprinting off in the opposite direction.
こっちだぞバケモノ。
Amazingly, at work, the spirit began chasing Tsukasa, leaving me completely unobstructed.
どうしよう私このまま一人逃げてもいいの
Yes. I was torn. On the other hand, on the one hand, I knew this was my best chance, but I couldn't help but worrying about what would happen to Tsukasa if his charm failed. I stopped for a moment and glanced over my shoulder. He was still running, and the shadowy figure was still in hot pursuit.
司くんお守り出して危ないよ
いいから行けって。お前が逃げ切ったのを確認したら俺も逃げるからさ。
I still can't believe I fell for it, but this was right about when I realized the truth. Tsukasa had no protective charm. He just made that up, so I wouldn't object too strongly to him serving as a decoy while I got away.
やっぱりダメ
You idiot. I stopped in my tracks and shouted out at the top of my lungs.
待ちなさいヨシエ先生
She actually said sensei. I wasn't sure exactly what I was getting myself into, but I had to do something, and calling the spirit's name definitely seemed to have an effect.
あなたの名前知っているわよ
おいシスト。
All at once, a black figure was facing me. Though I never saw her turn around, she was flying toward me now, ignoring Tsukasa.
怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない怖くない
She did really good saying that so fast. I repeated this line like a suture and stuck one hand into my pocket, grasping tightly onto the one and only item I'd stashed there.
お前は私を知っているのか。
私には本当にお守りがある
Tsukasa's care, his effort, his beliefs, they were all packed into his pencil, and when you get right down to it, that's what a charm is, right? Yes, defeat Yoshie with the power of love. I squeezed the nubby little thing in my pocket, mentally preparing myself for the confrontation ahead, the confrontation I had impulsively initiated.
シスト逃げろ。
逃げない私は逃げないわ神様どうかお願い助けて
I closed my eyes, lifted my hand from my pocket, and brandished Tsukasa's pencil intently. The gauntlet had been thrown. I was putting a lot of faith into this, and I really, really hoped I hadn't made a mistake in doing so.
私は獅子のゆいこの学校で先生を目指しているわ
I opened my eyes to find that the shadowy figure Yoshie had stopped dead in her tracks. Did it work? Was Tsukasa's pencil keeping this vengeful soul at bay?
私の代わりはいらない。
Yeah, she was
死ね。
She was kind of mad at the new nurse in her diary. Suddenly, I was whisked off my feet and slammed against the ceiling.
先生だ。
I could see him down below. He was staring up at me and desperately leaping. He was trying to catch me, I suppose, even though he knew he'd never reach.
司くん
Oi. Thank you. I called out to him over and over again in my mind. If he could get away, if he could survive this ordeal, then it would all have been worth it. Yoshie was drawing near, and I was helplessly pinned to the ceiling. I had no chance at all. There was no doubt in my mind that my life was over. I clung to the relief I felt at Tsukasa's safety, It was the only thing keeping me from losing my head entirely. Then all at once the situation took a complete 180. It was like a miracle. Before I had any idea what was happening, I found myself bathed in a gentle light. It was the old woman who had collapsed in front of my house. She was standing down below me, enveloped in a warm glow. Okay, loud sound effect, you gone now? The black shadow lunged towards her. Then there was a horrific noise, and the old woman was gone. Well, you already know what he said. And just like that, I fell to the ground. Whatever Yoshi had done to me, the old woman must have nullified it. That must have been why she came to me this morning, and why she had come again now. I felt like I was going to faint. Tsukasa ran to my side and gently scooped me off the ground into his arms. Yoshie's spirit was gone. She had vanished along with the light around us. Around us now, the only sound was the pitter-patter of raindrops on the school roof.
Oi! Shizuto! Shizuto!
Yeah, that pencil didn't do a whole lot, did it? I'd suffered quite a bump on the head from my fall and was decidedly disoriented, but I still had enough sense to put my arms around Tsukasa's neck. Wasn't he, like, right underneath you, trying to catch you? Well, how did you even hit the ground?
Baga!
I wanted to protect you. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you, is what I wanted to say. But instead I just passed out in his arms. Much better choice. I felt as though I was waking from a long, horrible dream.
Oi, 大丈夫か? おい、シシド?
ここどこ?
本当に大丈夫か? 見ればわかるだろ?
保健室.
It occurred to me to look at my surroundings, probably something I should have done before asking about them, but in my defense, I was out cold. Beige walls, pink curtains, white beds with solid blue covers. This was indeed the school infirmary, no doubt about it.
どうしてもこうしても、お前があんなところで倒れてたから、ここに連れてきてやったんじゃん。
あんなところ? おいおい、まだ具合悪いんじゃないのか? 肛門だよ、肛門。
It was all a dream. Fan fiction.
肛門に? 私、そこに倒れてったの?
そうだけど。
私、確かに学校の中でヨシエさんから逃げて。そうだ、腕を怪我して。腕、なんともない。
So does this make anyone else really angry, or is it just me?
はあ? 腕?
夢だったの? そんなはずない。だって本当に痛くて死んじゃいそうだったのに。
ああ、まあなんか様子が変だけど、とにかく無事でほっとしたよ。こういうのって虫の知らせって言うんだな。なんとなく気になってお前ん家に行ったら、お前のお母さんに学校に行ったって聞いてな。
Oh,
そしたらあんなところに倒れてるんだもんな。
Man, that's why I totally forgot why.
司くん、
まあとりあえず詳しい話は後で聞くからさ。
あ、司くん行っちゃった。ヨシエさんのこと聞こうと思ったのに。
あら、シシドさん、目が覚めたのね。
先生。
驚いたわよ。三國君が血相変えて私を呼びに来るんだもの。私が当直でよかったわね。
Yeah, you were working pretty... Like, what do you even do this late?
ご迷惑をおかけしてすみません。
それはいいのよ。でもあなたずいぶんうなされていたから悪い夢でも見てたんじゃない？
悪い夢？
そうよ。三國君もすごく心配してたわよ。
そうだ。やっぱりきっと悪い夢なんだ。
ともかくもう大丈夫？
はい。
Sniffles.
さあ、よかったわ。
The nurse smiled cheerfully and disappeared behind the partitioning curtain. Letting out a sigh, I laid myself down on the bed once more. It was dead silent. The rain must have let up. The only sound I heard was an occasional cough from the nurse, who was otherwise going about her business quietly.
そういえばペンケース。
I thrust my hands into my pockets, not really expecting to find it, but...
ちゃんとある。
The pen case, complete with Tsukasa pencil talisman inside, was present and accounted for. You know, she said earlier that she reached into her pocket and grabbed the only thing, which was the pencil, but here she says the whole pen case was in her pocket. Bad fan fiction. I'm not letting that up. I'm gonna keep calling it that. Which meant that...
私、やっぱり教室には行ったんだ。やっぱり夢じゃない。
Or you just got there and then you passed out on your way out?
おーい。
あ、司くん、おかえり。
I was still trying to remember exact details about what happened when I unexpectedly felt something cold press against my cheek.
これって。
お前、うなされてただろ。汗もかいてたし、喉乾いたんじゃないかなと思ってさ。
ありがとう。
Tsukasa went out of his way to buy this just for me. It was a lovely gesture. How could I possibly refuse?
お前さ、明日というか、もう今日か。推薦の試験だろ。
9時。
あと4時間か。
もう無理だよ、今日は。
I've been put through hell on earth. Taking a test was the farthest thing from my mind. I was in tears. I had no idea why. Maybe it was because I was so relieved, so glad to be alive.
よし。なあ、シシド。起きれるか？
え？
ちょうどいいから、お前にいいもの見せてやるよ。
いいもの？
おう、そうだな。むしろ、お前には見てほしいんだ。
So was he just like staying here the whole night, just, you know, sitting by the bed?
うん。
And the nurse said she was working late, but now it's like in the morning. What could she possibly have been doing like all night? My nose was still running, but my heart felt a lot lighter. I no longer felt threatened by the school. I was comfortable and safe. The two of us left the nurse's office with Tsukasa in the lead, and even though I was holding a cold coffee in my hand, I still felt warm all over. Neither of us said a thing as he led me through the empty halls. It occurred to me that when we last saw one another, I was mad at him.
ほら、シシド、着いたぞ。
ここって渡り廊下？
まあまあ、もうすぐだからちょっと待てよ。
もうすぐ？
I had no idea what I was looking for. I just kept staring at him, but his eyes were fixed on the window leading out to the hall walkway. As I gazed upon him in profile, I felt my heart would skip a beat.
昨日のこと、謝らなくちゃいけない。
But I just wasn't sure what to say. I let my feelings get the better of me, and reprimanded him for a behavior that was, at least at the time, entirely reasonable. There was more to it than that, though. There was one particular reason more than any other that made it hard for me to think of the words to say here. He and I had run from Yoshie together. We escaped her wrath against insurmountable odds. And what if that wasn't all just a dream?
お、出てきたぞ。
Now whatever you know what she said. I followed Tsukasa's pointing finger and...
朝日、すごいすごい。
俺ここでよく夕日を眺めてるんだけどさ、朝日もいいもんだな。
綺麗だよ。街がオレンジに染まっていく。
お、元気出てきたな。
ここって司くんの言ってた例の場所だよね。
おう、うん。
今まで絶対に教えてくれなかったのに、どうして今日はその教えてくれるの？
別になんとなく。
なんとなくって。
I could think of a reason, but I didn't say anything. It just seemed kind of far-fetched to me, and if I were misinterpreting him, I'd be very embarrassed. He couldn't possibly, could he? My face felt kind of warm. God damn it, text. Thank you. I placed the sweaty cafe au lait can on my cheek and sighed softly. The sweaty cafe au lait can? Well, I guess cans do sweat.
どうした？顔赤いぞ。
そう
まだ具合悪いんじゃないのか？
そんなことないよ。ほら、朝日が赤いせい。
ああ、なるほどな。
Boys can be so dense
試
sometimes.
験頑張れよ。今からすぐ戻って準備すりゃ間に合うだろ。
ありがとう。司くんのそれ好き。
え？
それとあとごめんね。
なんで謝るんだよ。
いや、昨日ほら、なんかちょっと気まずくなっちゃったし、七不思議の話して。
ああ、そんなこともあったっけ？
そんなこともって私は結構気にしてたんだけどな。
For some reason.
女子はほんと細かいこと気にするよな。俺は全然何とも思ってなかったのに。
そっか。
I let out another sigh and turned back towards the morning sun, stretching my arms skyward as a sudden wave of exhaustion overcame me. The day got brighter bit by bit, and I just stood there, silently trying to piece together all the jumbled thoughts rattling around in my head. I was running away from Yoshie, and Tsukasa was with me. Then I was saved by that old woman.
やっぱり夢だよね。
As the bright rays of the sun washed over me, I felt new life and new hope welling up from within, and I finally came to terms with those horrid events. Most likely I got the pen case without incident, but then on my way back something hit my head and knocked me out. Yeah, see, that's pretty much what I said. That would just be my
ちょっ
luck.
とシシド、動くなよ。
え？
そのまま。
I didn't know what he was planning to do, but he was staring right at me. It felt kind of like he was staring into my soul. And then...
え？
Slowly, Tsukasa drew his face toward mine.
これって
シシド。
嘘。何これ。
I shut my eyes. I was ready for this. Maybe I just didn't want to look. But the next sensation I felt wasn't quite the one I was expecting.
シシド、これ大丈夫か？
He grabbed my arm for some reason and was staring down at me intently.
何よ、紛らわしいな。で、え？ やだ、何これ。
Turns out he was just concerned by the strange bruise I had apparently received, which had momentarily become visible when I raised my arms. It was right around my elbow. Right where Yoshi had grabbed me in my dream.
痛そうだな。
全然痛くないけど。
This dumb text. It doesn't hurt at all. That's what it's supposed to say.
けど
なんでもないよ。
Giving her a wry smile, I gently pulled my arm from his grip.
ねえ、司くん。
ん？
帰る前に一つお願いがあるんだけど。
なんだよ。
手繋いでもいい？
手？
Probably should have saved the CG for a little while, you know, around this part, huh?
ダメ。
Whoops.
なんで？という
When he asked why I wanted to do this, I fed him his own line. I just told him, no reason. Oh, wait, why did I read that? She's reading. Oh, bleh. Whoops.
そっと指先を掴んだだけの軽いものだったけど、初めて私はお互いの心がつながっているのを感じた気がして、
I'm just so used to reading when
で
it's...
も嬉しかったのを覚えている。
I'm just so used to reading when it's gray. I wonder if I do that at other times. I just don't notice.
ふーん。
Thank God we're done with that stupid flashback.
ゆい先生、ゆい先生。
司くん。
ゆい先生ってば。
This is gonna be a really long video. I knew I'd heard that voice before, but who was it? Was I just dreaming? Again? I still felt like I was holding Tsukasa's hand, though.
ゆい先生って手。やっと起きた。
あら？え？持田くん？
そうだよ、持田聡だよ。
と
I was still dazed. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew is that one of my students, Satoshi Mochida, was here, and he looked concerned.
ゆい先生、いい加減手を。
あら！
I finally realized what he was talking about. I was holding Mochida's hand in my own and squeezing it awfully tightly.
やだ！ごめんなさい。私ったら。
Her arm.
いいけどさ、ゆい先生、結構握力強いんだな。
あら、そう？これでも昔はか弱く儚い美少女として巷に名を馳せたものだけど。
それどこから突っ込んでいいの？
手厳しいわね。
Mochida was a good student. He and I got along well, and we were already falling back into our usual pattern of good-natured ribbing, except...
ちょっと待って。どうして持田くんがうちにいるの？
それさっき話したじゃん。
え？
はあ、その調子じゃ何も覚えてないんでしょ。
何も？
さっき俺の作ったおかゆ食って薬飲んでまた寝たじゃないか。その
Whoops the doodles.
本当に綺麗さっぱり覚えてない？
全然。
笑えないよ。もう
Mochida sighed and pointed at the table.
あれ、山崎先生からの届け物。
もしかしてわざわざそれを届けに来てくれたの？
そうだよ。そしたらゆい先生があんまりにひどい状態だったから飯作って。キッチン借りていいって言ったのはモネだから。
What a stupid thing to say.
そっか、モネちゃんがね。
I stroked Monet's neck and he lied down contentedly on my futon. Such a pretty kitty. I was getting kind of wrapped up in petting him, as I often did. I almost forgot Moshida was here until he let out a huge sigh.
ゆい先生、玄関の鍵は閉めないと不用心だよ。
あら、開いてた？
うん。今回ばかりは開いてて助かったけど、でも今後はちゃんと閉めないとダメだからな。
気をつけるわ。
なんで笑うの？
持田くん、私のお母さんみたいだから。
うわ、複雑。
I didn't mean to laugh. I must have seemed kind of deranged, but I could always blame it on the fever. Moshida looked at me and let out another sigh. My poor sense of humor must have been getting to him.
でもまあ、だいぶ元気になってきたみたいでよかったよ。
そうみたい。
結構寝てたもんな、ゆい先生。
そうね。確か今朝風邪でめまいがして学校にお休みの電話をしてモネちゃんのご飯を用意してそこから先の記憶がないのよね。
あれ、コンビニ行ったんじゃないの？
コンビニ？
うん、冷却シートと弁当があって、ほらこれレシートの時間今朝になってるけど。
本当だ。
もしかしてゆい先生コンビニ行ったこと覚えてないの？うわー、もうしっかりしてくれよ。まさかパジャマで出かけたりしてないよな？
そんなことはないと思うけど。
どうかな。笑ってごまかさない。
ごめんごめん。持田くん、私のことずっと看病してくれてたの？
Yep, just watching you sleep.
うん。
そう。遅くまでごめんなさいね。
It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. I couldn't believe Mochida had been with me this whole time. I felt both guilty and grateful. And I definitely gained a new respect for him.
おかゆ、まだちょっと残ってるから腹減ったら食べてよ。
ええ。
あとそれからこれ。
スーパーの袋？
冷蔵庫を見たら何もなかったからさ、ついでに買っておいたよ。
え
There was... oh, wait. The bag was quite heavy. Damn text. Inside it was a bottle of orange juice, some bananas, canned peaches, apples, and other assorted fruits.
これ
風邪の時ってビタミンを取るといいんだろう。それ食べて早く良くなってよ。
持田くん。
That much fruit couldn't have come cheap, especially from a high schooler. I considered offering to pay him back, but decided against it. I knew he wouldn't take my money, and besides, I really appreciated the fact he'd gone to all this trouble for me. You see, I like this pairing a lot more than Yui and Tsukasa. I'd return the favor another time. Except you won't return the favor because you're gonna get killed. Your arm's gonna get broken. You see, right there. And then you're gonna get crushed by rubble, and it's gonna paralyze you from the neck down. And then you're gonna cry and then die. If it ever seemed like he was going to be staying late after school, maybe I'd buy him dinner. Or I could help him with preparations for the school festival.
じゃあ俺帰るよ。
あ、大丈夫？道わかるかしら？なんなら途中まで見送りに行くわよ。
大丈夫だよ。ゆい先生はおとなしく寝てて。まだ本調子じゃないんだし。第一、夜道を女の人一人で歩くなんて危険だよ。
持田くんは優しいね。 そういうとこキュンとしちゃう。
あれ、そういうこと俺に言っていいの？
なんで？
Moshida and I joked like this a lot. Usually it made him blush or get adorably embarrassed. But not today. Today he just grinned sheepishly with a mischievous glint in his eyes. I didn't quite get it. What was his angle?
司くんって誰？先生の恋人？
どうしてそれ？
ゆい先生寝てる時ずっとその人のこと呼んでたよ。うなされながら何度も「司くん司くん」って。誰なんだよ。
That crafty Moshida had turned the tables on me. And how embarrassing to know that I'd been calling Tsukasa's name.
それは
I hesitated to answer for a moment, but then figured, what the hell, why not?
司くんはね、私の初恋の人。
その様子じゃゆい先生はよっぽどその人のことが好きだったんだね。だって先生さっきすごかったよ。俺のこと司って人と間違えてたでしょ。
やだ。
ゆい先生顔赤いよ。
これは熱のせいよ、きっと。
まあいいや。そういうことにしてあげる。
あんまり大人をからかわないで。
だってこんなゆい先生めったに見れないからさ。
I wasn't sure he was ever going to give me the full story of all the embarrassing things I'd done in my fever days, and maybe it was better he didn't. Either way, I was in his debt, so he could tease me all he wanted just this once.
やばい。そろそろ帰らないと。床がカンカンだ。
Oh yeah, that sounds scary.
今日はありがとね。もう暗いから気をつけて帰るのよ。
はーい。それじゃあ先生、食事をきちんととって頑張って早く治してくれよ。
Whoops.
ファイト。
ありがとう。いい子だな、持田君は。いかんいかん、あの子は生徒だぞ。おいで、マネちゃん。一緒に寝ようか。会いたいな、司くん。
Thank you, God. Oh my God. No, and you know what's weird? That's the last time you see Satoshi and Miss Yui in the game. Think about that for a second. I'm not going to talk about it too much because this video is just probably enormous, but that's the last time you see Miss Yui. So next time we'll be going to Purgatory, which is a it's a bit better than Chapter 3. I mean, it actually seems like a chapter. It doesn't seem like a bad fanfic that someone on Tumblr wrote. So, until next time, goodbye.